I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer not coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city, but from the Ameristar Casino and Resort here in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just across the river from Omaha, Nebraska. We've reached the Final Four in the College World Series, and we are here to talk about it over the next 2 hours. Our Wednesday show is always brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools, and we've got tons to do before 3 o'clock. Koki Riley in his normal segment at 1:15. Koki's been following the Tigers the whole way this season, and he's here in Omaha. Had a steak last night. I want to ask him about that. What If Wednesday coming up in 30 minutes if you're in the Bayou Ford chat, or you got me on Twitter. You can send me a what if. We'll get to some of those. Andrew Hutchison covers the Hogs for Best of Arkansas Sports. We will talk to Andrew at 2 o'clock. And Paul Gervais, former Tiger right-hander from the 2022 season, was here in Omaha late last week, and we will chat with him about his trip here and what's going on with him in minor league baseball. So fired up to be here at the Ameristar, fired up that LSU is still hanging around in this College World Series, and fired up to get in the ballpark tonight to watch LSU and Arkansas and the Tigers try to punch their ticket to the championship series. Let's start the same way we start every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Well, look, this was pretty inevitable, wasn't it? Once LSU and Arkansas got together on Saturday night, you kind of felt like the bracket was going to bend back around to Wednesday, and these two teams would meet again. Now, who needed 2 wins? We were going to determine that back on Saturday, and we certainly did, with Cade Anderson and LSU dominating the Hogs from a pitching perspective and winning that game 4-1. So since then, a lot's happened. We've had some weather, had a lot of baseball, but they did find their way back to one another here in this bracket final starting tonight. And the hope is, if you're LSU, that once you beat Arkansas in the game on Saturday, that you're going to go ahead and take care of your business on Monday, that you'll sit in the catbird seat with a day off on Tuesday and let Arkansas, whoever it is that comes back around to see you, use up a lot of pitching. And candidly, that hasn't really happened. Arkansas was not asked to go to the bullpen at all on Monday. Gage Wood threw a no-hitter. And then coming back on Tuesday, Arkansas hands the ball back to Zach Root, and he gets them through 5 innings, and UCLA didn't really put up a fight until the 9th inning when the issue was decided. So Arkansas really has not used a substantial amount of its pitching staff. Here is the biggest, boldest pitching take I can give you here. LSU is very, very likely, in my opinion, to take on Arkansas if it takes 2 days, but today and tomorrow, LSU is very likely to take on Arkansas without Zach Root and without Gage Wood. I don't think that Zach Root is going to come back in the next 2 days. He threw 5 innings last night. Certainly, you would imagine he would be available tonight. And I don't even think on 1 day of rest Zach Root would come back. And then Gage Wood threw the most historic game in college baseball history back on Monday, but he threw 30 more pitches in that game than he has thrown in any outing all season. So for him to come back on 2 days rest for anything substantial would be surprising based on the way that Arkansas has handled Gage Wood after his injury earlier in this season. So I think that you're looking at playing Arkansas the next 2 days without their number 1 and number 2 starters. I think both of LSU's number 1 and 2 starters are available over the course of these 2 days. So in a literal availability sense, yes, I think that LSU does have that side of an advantage. However, I told you back on Monday, the days are really difficult for me to keep straight because LSU played 2 games. It played a game over 2 days, and it's been a bit. Sometimes I have to really think about what day of the week something happened on. I told you on Monday, Arkansas is as equipped as any team to come out of the losers bracket. And I believe that Arkansas is in pretty good position right now beyond Root and Wood. And let me tell you why I think that. Landon Beidelshees has basically been their third starter all year. He started 9 SEC games in 10 weekends. He is a pitchability lefty. He does not have great stuff, but he's a guy that is very capable of going out there and throwing 3, 4, 5 innings of SEC baseball. He's not some freshman that's never done it before. He's not at the end of the bullpen. He's a weekend starter in the SEC. Now, in league play, you're talking about a guy who had a 6.56 ERA that in 35 2/3 innings allowed 26 earned runs, which is an ERA, as I mentioned, of 6.56. SEC hitters hit .280 against him and hit 12 home runs against Beidelshees. 12 homers in those 9 SEC starts. I think he's probably your starter, but then it's the army of relievers that Arkansas is very comfortable trotting out there, and they're all very rested. Cole Gibler has been sensational down the stretch. LSU saw him briefly on Saturday night. Curiel hit the RBI single for insurance in the 8th inning off of him into left field. But Gibler's been great and has a high strikeout rate and a microscopic ERA. Dylan Carter made 22 appearances for the Hogs this year. His ERA is 2.18. We haven't seen him. You're looking at Parker Coyle, who made 14 appearances this year with an ERA of 1.27. He's a high-end left-handed arm. Christian Fouch throws 99 miles an hour. We saw him on Saturday. He hasn't pitched since Saturday. It's now Wednesday. He's ready, and I'll tell you this, it would not surprise me if it was a really close game and Arkansas had a lead tonight if Gabe Gackle didn't get the ball. Now, I think ideally Dave Van Horn would like to start Gabe Gackle tomorrow. That would probably be Gackle and Anderson if we're getting to tomorrow's game. But I think with the season on the line, he threw 90 pitches on Saturday. You're talking about resting Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. That's 3 days of rest. I think he could absolutely come in and give you 40 pitches tonight if Arkansas absolutely had to have it and there wasn't a better option. So that's a lot of guys. And let me paint you a picture here of what that little run of relievers looks like. On Mother's Day, Arkansas was in Baton Rouge, and LSU had won the first game at 1:15 in the morning behind Anderson and Cowan in the bullpen. And then Saturday, LSU run ruled them. They lit up Gage Wood, and Ianson was sensational, and they won the first 2 games of that series. And we came back on Mother's Day to play the 3rd game of the year, and Landon Beidelshees started that game. He only lasted 2 innings. LSU scored 3 runs on 4 hits. They knocked him around in the first 2 innings. And after he left the game, Dylan Carter, who I just mentioned, Christian Fouch, who I just mentioned, Gibler, who I just mentioned, Aiden Jimenez came in. He pitched last night for 40 pitches. I don't think you'll see him today. But then Parker Coyle, who I just mentioned, those guys came in after LSU hit Beidelshees hard in the first 2 innings. Those 4 guys combined to throw 7 innings and allowed only 1 run with 11 strikeouts in that game. And that's what Dave Van Horn is looking for today. I don't think he's got delusions that Beidelshees is going to go out there and give him 7 shutout. But if he can get 4 of one-run baseball from Vital Shees and go to all these bullpen arms that are available and haven't really pitched at all. They haven't pitched at all since Saturday, or they haven't pitched at all, period. Like Dylan Carter hadn't pitched in the College World Series yet. They went on Monday, it was all Wood, and then yesterday it was Root, and then it was Jimenez, and then they went to Will McIntyre for the ninth inning. Maybe Jimenez and McIntyre aren't available today, but that leaves 7 guys that are. So this is an Arkansas staff that is not compromised in the way that you would like it to be if you were LSU, based on them coming through the loser's bracket. From LSU's perspective, you're in pretty good shape in terms of the number of arms that you have. The big blow that you got dealt, and there's nothing you can do about it, and Jay Johnson made the decision that he made, and I praised it yesterday, and I still praise it today. You don't have your third starter in Cason Evans because it rained. And that's Arkansas's advantage. Like, Arkansas, outside of UCLA beating LSU, Arkansas could not have had this break any better since losing on Saturday. No hitter on Monday with 1 pitcher used, and then come back and blow UCLA out in the next game and only have to use 3 pitchers total. But on the flip side, as I mentioned right at the top of this thing, LSU has the one advantage baked in. You're not going to see Root over these 2 days, and I don't think you're going to see Wood over these 2 days. So it's going to be the Arkansas bullpen, which is healthy and rested and ready to go, against you. And tonight, it's LSU's bullpen. I think Ianson could be available. We'll talk about it later. And then tomorrow, Cade Anderson would get the ball. And I think it would be against Gabe Gackle, and that's a classic pitching matchup and one that we saw after Root came out of the game on Saturday. But LSU's got to feel pretty good about the fact that they do have Cade Anderson lined up on 4 days rest, like Paul Skeens was 2 years ago, like Rhett Lauder was 2 years ago, and that's your insurance policy for the game tonight. Arkansas is playing with its season on the line, and that's why it wouldn't surprise me to see Gackle if Arkansas desperately needs him to get the last 3 outs. LSU's not. They're playing with one in their back pocket. And you've heard Jay Johnson talk about this when it relates to the Sunday game of the regional when LSU lost to Little Rock. He was not going to completely compromise Monday to try to save Sunday. And if you get behind by 3 or 4 runs tonight, you still have to go to some of your better guys because you have to trust that Anderson's going to give you 5, 6, 7 innings tomorrow, but you're not going to go nuts. Like, you're not going to burn Ianson tonight if you are losing. LSU's urgency only really comes if you get ahead and you're trying to close it. Arkansas has to have urgency no matter what's going on unless they're up 13. LSU's urgency only kicks in if you've got a lead. Now, that's what you want, so you want that urgency to be there, and you want to go to that last bullet and finish the deal here and not play around with Arkansas next tomorrow. But the teams are in different places, and I think they handle their staffs differently. That opening segment here is just to lay out, like, this is not going to be – like UCLA yesterday got to a spot where they were flat out of pitching. They were out. They didn't have any starters that were going deep. They continued to go to bullpen guys for 10 to 25 pitches at a time. They were using guys twice in a day yesterday because of the rain, and they just flat ran out of pitching. That's not going to happen to either one of these teams over the next 2 days. It's just not. They have too many guys that are too talented. Now, that's not to suggest that some of these guys won't not have it that day and they might not throw strikes, but that won't be because of massive fatigue and overuse. That'll just be a bad day on the mound. But as far as just flat running out, which UCLA did yesterday, LSU and Arkansas are not in that spot. These offenses need to swing the bats, but the arms are going to be there. And so if you'd like to read a full preview of like all the available pitching in this game coming up today, I've got a piece up at LouisianaSports.net that kind of previews all of it, and you can do that for free. We're here at the Ameristar Casino Resort here outside the ESPN Bet Sportsbook in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Really appreciate our sponsors for getting us here. It's, of course, Our Lady of the Lake, GoFlow IV Spa, and Yingling Beer. They've been phenomenal to us and allowing us to bring you this coverage from Omaha, and this is fun. I told you yesterday that I was going to do some laundry. I was hoping that this trip would force me to the laundromat. It did yesterday. I got a lot of clean clothes. I'm good to be here until Tuesday if need be. Hopefully some of y'all are headed on up, and hopefully the Tigers can extend this day with a win tonight, ideally. We'll see, but we're previewing it here on the Hunt Palmer Show. We've got Koki Riley coming up in the next segment. We'll take a time out and come back with that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Always, always, always love telling you about my friends at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can check out their entire inventory at genesisofbatonrouge.com. if you don't love going to car dealerships, I get it. There's a stigma there, and there's a reason for it. Sometimes you can show up on random car lot, and you got a pushy salesperson trying to take advantage of you, making your experience just less than desirable. I get it. That's happened to a lot of people. It's never going to happen at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're going to treat you like a guest, not a customer. They're going to help you through the buying process. They understand that a lot of you have not been behind the wheel of a Genesis because it hadn't been around that long. But it's a luxury brand of vehicle at a reasonable price. And it starts with the experience on the lot or a remote test drive with their brand ambassadors. If you're looking for the sedan, they got you. Looking for an SUV, they got you. No matter what your family situation is, what your preference is, they can handle it at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're at Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody, and presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, always brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Looking to get into that pool of your dreams in the backyard, your outdoor kitchen, Renaissance Homes and Pools. You can check them out online. See pictures of their fantastic work at builtbyrenaissance.com. That's builtbyrenaissance.com. Koki Riley, the Advocate, been following the Tigers all season long, is up here in Omaha as well. Koki, appreciate a little bit of time. How are you, sir?
Doing pretty well. How's it going?
Going quite well. I saw on the old Twitterverse yesterday that you stopped by the Drover yesterday evening. Give me the review.
It was amazing. I went 2 years ago when LSU was in Omaha. Returned this year. It was a return 2 years in the making, and it was absolutely wonderful. So got a ribeye steak, whiskey smoked, of course. And it was just as good as I could have possibly hoped for. So it was great. Yeah.
I love to hear that. I have a reservation at a local steakhouse for Friday if LSU can get me there. So we'll see. They got to win one more game over the next 35 hours or so. Let's start with what we've seen so far, Koki. What have you made of LSU's offense through 2 games of the College World Series?
Definitely good enough. Solid, I'd say. The first game wasn't perfect, only 4 runs, but it was more than enough given how fantastic Kate Anderson and the rest of the staff was in that game. Big 3-run inning is all they really needed. And again, it's tough to score runs in Omaha, so that was always going to be a tall task against an extremely talented Arkansas team. Yes, they got Root out of the game early, which was probably the best thing that they did. But at the same time, Gabe Gacko really shut them down. So then you look at the UCLA game. I thought they were excellent at the plate. I thought they played really. I thought they did a really good job of grinding out at bats, quality at bats, back to back to back to back, and then a lot of solidly hit singles. Not a lot of weak contact, which is sometimes when this offense is not rolling, it's weak contact early in counts, and this was the opposite of that. So I thought they were excellent against UCLA, and I thought they were good enough against Arkansas to get the job done. And if they can I think they got to score at least 5 runs tonight. I don't think a 4-run outing is going to work given the pitching situation that they have going into this game. So yeah, they're going to have to be better than they were on Saturday offensively if they're going to win this game.
I would tend to agree with that, and there's a lot that went right in the game on Monday/Tuesday for this team offensively. I'm curious what your thoughts are on where he'll bat Derek Curiel in this game, being that you figure you're going to face probably 4 or 5 pitchers in this game. So are you just going to respond to who the starter is? I know the leadoff man hits against the starter, but are you going to go 1 or 6 hole?
Personally, I would put him in the 1 hole, but if Vital Shies is going to start, which I guess he's going to start because Aiden Jimenez had been their starter the last couple weeks if they needed a third guy. But Jimenez came out of the bullpen yesterday, so I don't know what that really means for today. Maybe it's Parker Coyle, and they kind of throw us a curveball with that one. But either way, there's a decent chance a lefty starts. So I still think they should just bat Curiel leadoff because he's hit lefties better since they've made the adjustment and moved him lower into the lineup. And he's also just like the engine of the offense. He's a table setter for this team, and I don't think the platoon split should scare them to the point where they should put him lower in the lineup, especially going into a game like this where you're not facing, Zach Root, you're not facing Liam Doyle, right? You're not facing an elite lefty, and if that were the case, I would have understood that. This game, that's not going to be the case, so I think you might as well just go for it, and bat a guy like Curiel, where he should be batting, which is the top of the order.
Let's talk about the decision to go to Case and Evans in the restart yesterday. What did you think of it with a 2-run lead?
It's hard to say it's ever a bad decision to put Case and Evans into the game. I thought there was a chance that they would hold off on him and save him for tonight's game, but that clearly that wasn't the case. And to secure that second win and to give yourself the luxury of having these two games to get one, it's a really big advantage. So I can certainly see why he did that. And with Evans, he'll be ready for the final if they get there. And my guess is he'll start probably one of the first two games if they use Anthony Ianson in any sort of major capacity either today or tomorrow.
What do you think the odds are that they go with Ianson at some point today?
If they're up by a couple runs or a run and they need somewhere between 9 and 3 outs, I think you're going to see him in the game. But if they're not in that situation, if they're losing, if they're up by 8 runs, which that seems very unlikely, then I don't think you're going to see him. Because I think ideally you want him starting in one of the two games in the final, right? And unless you got a chance to really shut the door in Arkansas here, especially when you have that second game in your back pocket, that's when you can do it. I mean, if you're down by 3 runs in this game, I don't really see the point of using him when you can go to Anderson if you really need to. You can go to him if you really need to in that do or die extra game. So I'm really curious to see how they sort of manage today, because today's going to be today's kind of the tougher day to manage between today and tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel like just like Skeens 2 years ago, if you get to Thursday, it's Anderson's ball as long as he can go. So today's the one where you got some room to play a little bit. Who do you think he starts?
I think he starts Newt. I kind of like the fact that he has a similar sort of repertoire in action as someone like Anthony Ianson, and Ianson was fantastic in his start against Arkansas. I think that he can give you a little bit of length, and again, he had the very poor performance against Little Rock, but besides that, he's been better in the second half of the year than Zach Cowan has been. But I do think we're going to see Cowan at some point, and again, Cowan did pitch well against Arkansas. So I think Newt's going to start. He'll give you maybe 3 or 4 innings, and then after that, you're going to have to piece things together a little bit. I think Zach Cowan's probably the next guy up. Chase Shores is definitely available in this game. They have all the lefties available outside of Kane Anderson. So I think those are going to be the guys that they go to after Newt, and then depending on the score of the game, depending on the situation, they can go to Ianson for the 9th.
I'm curious what you think of the confidence level the staff has, not necessarily you, but the staff in Maverick Rizzi, because sometimes I think they really trust him, and sometimes he's the guy that goes out there to finish the game when they're losing.
I don't think they trust him quite as much now, just given the stakes of these games and how volatile he can be. But when he's on, he can be one of their best relievers, and it all comes down to whether that arm, whether mechanically he's all set, and the arm isn't dragging behind the rest of his body, and it's just harder to time things up when you're 6'9", and that's for anybody, honestly. So I think if he's on, he's as good as anyone they have in that bullpen. It's just a matter of, finding that mechanical timing for him. I wouldn't be stunned if you saw him today. He's another one of those sort of guys after Newt that you could go to. But, he's an interesting case for sure.
Koki Riley is our guest, beat reporter for The Advocate, covering the LSU baseball team, Tigers and Hogs, tonight at 6 o'clock from Charles Schwab Field in Omaha. I know that you wrote a story up on The Advocate about what the guys were doing during rain delays to keep themselves preoccupied. You got any good stories from that digging?
Yeah. They played, like the party game Mafia, like during the rain delay. They also hung out with that dog that's become internet famous since they've gone to Omaha. And then after that, they just kind of ate something, drank something, and went to bed. Sort of woke up early the next morning. Chase Shores said he got up at 6:30 when he usually gets up at 10:30 for night games. So, I don't know. This team just knows how to just roll with the punches, stay hydrated and stay full. Those have kind of been their keys to success, not sort of complicating the situation or making it any bigger than what it already is. So this team's done a really good job of that this season, and they're more prepared for any sort of weather disturbance, even if that happens today. And I really, really hope that doesn't happen today. There's very, very light rain here, as you know, since you're also here. But yeah, I think we'll be fine for tonight. But maybe those words might be the kiss of death. Let's hope not.
Scott Rabelais thinks that you've got some sort of negative juju going on that's really causing all these weather delays. I'll let you two settle that in the newsroom. Last thing, Koki, appreciate it. What's your gut tell you about the next 30 hours for LSU? Are they moving on at some point?
I think they win tomorrow, and maybe they win today. It's hard to say. Like, they're going to face a very desperate Arkansas team that might have some stuff up their sleeve, but I think they're going to have a pitching advantage tomorrow, and I have trouble believing that they're going to lose twice. But I can definitely see them losing tonight. So we'll see, though. I think a lot of it's going to come down to the offense for tonight. Like, if they can get not just 5 runs, but more than that, add on 7, 8, 9 runs, then I think they'll be fine. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that in this park against this pitching staff. So, yeah.
We'll see. We'll see you up there in the press box, Koki. Appreciate some time.
Yep. See you then. Thanks.
Koki Riley with The Advocate up here in Omaha. Appreciate him for a little bit of time. Louisville is still searching for an out at this point. Coastal is already up 2-0 in the bottom of the first inning. They still have the bases loaded and nobody out. I know there's been at least 1 walk and 2 hit by pitches. I know there's been at least 2 singles. So Coastal's putting it on Louisville right now, who's already got some action up in the bullpen, and they haven't got an out yet. So it's danger zone time for the Louisville Cardinal, and I'm looking at Dan McDonald, and I'm not sure if he's already made a visit out there or not, but he's going out to the mound right now, and he may have maybe pulling Colton Hartman, who is his starting pitcher today, before the left-hander gets a single out. Chanticleers are playing dadgum good baseball right now. There's no two ways about that. They've started Riley Eichhoff in this game, the big senior right-hander, so he's a weekend starter for him. He's been very, very good. They're going to try to finish with this thing today and have their next 2 starters, including Jacob Morrison, the Sun Belt Pitcher of the Year, who was sensational back on Sunday. They're going to try to get those 2 guys lined up to start the first 2 games of the championship series. They got to finish this one off, but they're off to a really good start. Louisville headed to the bullpen in the bottom of the first inning before they have recorded an out over at Charles Schwab Field in Omaha. We'll talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks with Andrew Hutchinson of Best of Arkansas Sports 30 minutes from right now, and really looking forward to catching up with Paul Gervais, former Tiger right-hander, who was here in Omaha just a few days ago. He's playing minor league baseball, going out to the ballpark at 3:30 today, but he said he'd give us a little bit of time in hour number 2, so we'll talk to him at 2:15. We'll take a time out, come back with What If Wednesday next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Closet space is a big deal. I didn't realize that when I bought my first home, and there wasn't a lot of closet space, and I didn't really care. And then my wife moved in, and she goes, where are we supposed to put all our clothes? I said, well, you just find somewhere. So we had clothes in the hallway closet. We had clothes in the attic. We had clothes in the guest room closet. The closet space in our master bedroom was just not good enough. So when we decided to move, we upgraded in closet space, and it's made a huge difference. You don't have to move to get that to happen for you. Get a completely customized closet experience, whether it's the space you currently have or creating a brand new one. David Duvall and his team are happy to do it. Start with that free consultation. That doesn't cost you anything to go to David and say, hey, I'd like to look at what you can do with my closet space. he can help you with it. It's going to be functional, customized, and beautiful. And I promise you this, he will do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. David Duvall and One Bath and Closets online at onebathandclosets.com.
Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody, and presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight. This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Ameristar Casino and Resort in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on this Wednesday. As you know, our Wednesday shows are brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. I'm going to give you Joey Blanchard's cell phone number here in a second, because that's who you call if you want to work with Renaissance Homes and Pools. Well, who's Joey Blanchard? Sales rep? No, he's the owner. You deal with the owner. And the owner's there from the free consultation. The owner's there when the plans are finalized. The owner's there when the digging begins. The owner's there after the pool is installed and finished. That's the promise that Joey Blanchard is going to make you with Renaissance Homes and Pools. This process can be done weather dependent and depending on your design, 6, 8, 9 weeks. You can be in the pool of your dreams. So if you're looking to get into that swimming pool, call my guy Joey Blanchard with Renaissance Homes and Pools, 225-252-7745. Again, it's in the 225 area code, 252-7745. You can also find them online at builtbyrenaissance.com. That's builtbyrenaissance.com. All right, Beck, it's time for some What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, first one here. What if Shohei played for LSU right now? How many homers would he have this season, and how many strikeouts pitching?
Shohei Ohtani played 56 games with a metal bat in college. He would hit 53 home runs. I mean, Berkman hit 40. Larson hit 40. Berkman hit 41. Chris Bryant hit 40. I 55, 58 home runs. Maybe that's short. Maybe I'm short on that, but that's what my head says. As far as the strikeouts, it would be substantial. It would be kind of what Paul Skeens did, where you're bumping up, high 180s, 190s for strikeouts. It would be he would do quite well in college baseball. I'm confident saying that.
All right, next one here. What if we are looking back at the rain this past Monday night the same way we do about Eric Walker standing sadly on the mound looking into the dugout in 2017?
Yeah, it's different because Walker was done, and you feel like Evans and Ianson can still help you. So I have a hard time pointing as directly to it, but it is a bad break that you caught that was out of your control. Certainly for those that are not completely familiar with what we're talking about, LSU played Oregon State in the second game of the College World Series, and Eric Walker got the start, and he actually looked pretty good. He gave up a couple runs in the first inning, but he looked pretty good and then blew his elbow out. And so they had to go to the bullpen, and that necessitated some shuffling with the pitching. And, you ended up having Russell Reynolds start the championship series game where that would not have happened if Walker was available. Now, Caleb Gilbert probably doesn't get that action either. But there's a lot of what-ifs that go into that, and I guess that's the point of the game. So, I think it's possible that you could look back on that weather if LSU can't pitch it well in this game and loses. But the fact of the matter is that if LSU loses tonight in the game that Evans was hopeful to pitch in, you're going to give the ball to Cade Anderson tomorrow, and there's not a lot that the rain on Monday had to do about him not doing well if you lose the game. So I think that it didn't help, and I wish it didn't rain, and I wish Evans was available and starting the game today. But I don't think it's quite as big a blow as losing your number 3 starter who had been so good all year with an injury 2 games into the series.
All right, next one. What if Hunt is in the booth for the final call of the College World Series this year? Will he yell Tigers win?
No, I think a lot of Tiger fans will be thrilled to know that Doug Thompson has arrived in Omaha. So Doug's gonna sit with Chris and Bill the rest of the way, and I'll head back over to the writer side of the press box. It was a true thrill for me personally to be on the mic for 2 College World Series games. Been phenomenal, and I appreciate Chris for allowing me to hop in. But it's Doug from here on out, so I will not be in the booth the rest of the way.
Yeah, also the Tigers win. That's usually Chris Blair's line, so I don't know that it would be you on that one. But next one here, what if Hunt gets that steak on Friday night, ribeye or filet?
Oh, that's going to be a ribeye all day. There's no question about that. I enjoy a filet. It is very, very much inferior to the ribeye. The ribeye is the steak, significantly better, significantly more flavorful. Give me a ribeye all day. Like, I'll eat a filet, certainly not going to complain about a filet. But if I'm sitting down at a good steak dinner, which is what the plan is on Friday if I'm still here, that's a ribeye all day long.
All right, next one. What if LSU wins tonight?
Whew, man. Win tonight, you're in a really good spot. However, Coastal's going to win. They have scored 6 runs in the first inning. Louisville has recorded 1 out. So Coastal is going to be in the championship series absolutely loaded with pitching. And they've got a good pitching staff. And it checked out in this College World Series, and it checked out when they went to Auburn. So they've got a good pitching staff, they've got a good team, and they're playing great baseball. They've won 23 in a row. But if you tell me that LSU wins tonight, especially if Ianson doesn't pitch, and you've got Anderson ready to go Saturday, Ianson ready to go Sunday, Evans ready to go on Monday, I like LSU's chances against anybody you can put out there, and that includes Coastal Carolina and some 26-game winning streak. So I think LSU is knocking on the door here, but this next 30 hours is no picnic. Arkansas is really good. They're talented on the mound, and they're going to have a lot of dudes. But if LSU gets by Arkansas tonight and has everything set up for the weekend, I'm going to be take it this way. I'll feel a lot better on Saturday morning than I feel sitting here right now. I don't feel bad right now about LSU's chances. I feel good about LSU's chances right now. But I will feel great about LSU's chances against Coastal Carolina. That may be conceited. That may be arrogant. That may be naive to, and I wouldn't say, I think dismiss is too strong a word, but to denigrate Coastal in that way. But, I like the Tigers with Anderson on full rest on Saturday. So we'll see if that materializes. But I like the Tigers' chances if they win tonight.
All right, next one here. What if Hunt puts it all on black at the casino and wins a couple $1 million? Would he quit 104.5 or retire?
If I win $2 million, no, I'm not going to quit. $2 million at 37 years old is not going to get me to the finish line.
No, it won't.
It will not. So I will be a lot less stressed financially, week to week, check to check, month to month, daycare bill to daycare bill, all that. But I would still come back to work for $2 million. You're going to have to go north of that at 37 for me to hang it on up. And I don't really want to quit right now. So you know what? We're in good shape. But here's the deal. Jimmy and Charlie would probably be very disappointed in me because spent a lot of time at the Ameristar. It's an amazing property. I'm seated right now about 85 feet from the sportsbook window and probably 200 feet from the casino floor. I have not placed one wager. I arrived here on Thursday, have not placed a wager. I'm not ruling it out. If LSU gets 2 days off tomorrow and Friday before they play on Saturday, that might precipitate a little bit of blackjack time. But I've had a blast. I've watched a lot of baseball. I've enjoyed myself. Did some laundry, but I have not placed any wagers to this point. So we'll see if that changes over the next few days.
All right, that's it. We're taking it or leave it. All right. What if Wednesday?
That is What If Wednesday. Take it or leave it.
That's
presented
later.
by Flight by Yingling. That'll come up at the end of the hour. We still got one segment to go in this hour. Our Wednesday shows are brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Shout out to the folks who made my trip up here to Nebraska possible. That is, of course, Our Lady of the Lake. That is, of course, GoFlow IV Spa, and that is, of course, Yingling Beer. Appreciate them for allowing me up here in Omaha. Seen a lot of LSU fans that have cycled into the sportsbook. I actually talked to one right before the show started that said that his brother-in-law is flying in right now, and they're staying here because we're here. We like to hear that. We appreciate that a ton. There are, unfortunately, some Arkansas fans that have made their way into the sportsbook as well. The Hogs are well represented in Omaha. There's no question about that. And I think they'll have a few more people people than LSU for this ball game tonight, but it should be a really, really boisterous crowd. It was a little bit of a bummer to get in there on Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock and play in front of a few thousand fans. It's not really the way that it was intended. Tonight should be a really exciting environment, and I'm excited to get in there and check it out once we drop the equipment here at 3 o'clock. So stick with us. We'll come back and close out the hour next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. Live from Omaha, powered by Our Lady of the Lake, Championship Health for everybody, and presented by GoFlow Ivy Spa and Yingling Flight. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Closing up hour number one, we'll have a couple guests coming up in the next two segments. Andrew Hutchison, Best of Arkansas Sports, will be with us at the top of the hour in 13 minutes. And then Paul Gervais, big right-hander, former Tiger, will be with us at 2:15. Paul is doing great things in the minor leagues. He was here in Omaha for LSU's first game. So excited to catch up with Paul here in about 25 minutes. We close out the hour. I want to talk a little about LSU's offense because I feel so good about what LSU did offensively in the game over both days against UCLA. There was a lot of down, hard contact. That's a lot of hard ground balls, hard line drives. That's vital to win in Charles Schwab Field. I have noticed last night with Arkansas and UCLA, and then in this game with Coastal and Louisville, like the ball is flying towards the gaps right now. Aloy was able to hit the home run. Coastal just hit a bases clearing double that nearly hit the wall. It's flying a little bit more, but down and hard is usually going to work in this ballpark, really in any ballpark. And LSU's done an awesome job of that. Stephen Milam has just been blistering offensively for the entire postseason. That's going to be, if LSU can finish this thing off, and then we always talk about it, like, because we don't really talk about the 2013 Omaha team. We don't ever talk about the 2015 team in Omaha. Teams that lose, you don't necessarily reminisce about some of the things that happened over the course of that postseason. And so if LSU loses today and tomorrow and doesn't even make the championship series, like, I don't think we'll talk about Stephen Milam hitting 200 over the course of a season and then showing up in the postseason and just being just out of this world hot. But if LSU wins it, and Milam gets some more hits, it's going to be like, this was the most unbelievable run ever, because you're talking about a guy that hit 200 in league play. 200 in league play. In the NCAA tournament, he is 12 for 26. That is 462 with 12 runs driven in. 462 with 12 runs driven in. How many postseason games has LSU played? They played in Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the regional, 1-2, super 1-2. So they played in eight NCAA tournament games. He's got 12 runs driven in. He's just been sensational. I think Jared Jones wiggled a little bit out of it in the game on Monday/Tuesday. No, is that right? Monday/Tuesday. I'm telling y'all, my days are scrambled up here. And that's important. Jake Brown got 3 hits in the game yesterday and hit it hard a couple different times. Luis Hernandez found a hole for a two-out single up the middle that I really liked. Everyone has really swung it well, with the exception of Dickinson, who did get a huge bunt single against Arkansas and then flared in a single yesterday, so he does have 2 hits to his name. And then Braswell has been fighting it. But you know what? Michael Braswell started 2 monster double plays for LSU in the game on Saturday against Arkansas when LSU really had to have them. You know, LSU, that first double play that Braswell turned was awesome because LSU had just taken the lead and Cade had sat for a little bit and you had a 3 spot and you didn't want to give them any hope after that. And Cade walked a guy in the next inning, but Braswell started the double play. And so he's the only guy that's not seeing it really well. And look, he's hitting under 200 for the season. It just is what it is. But he's playing really good defense. Offensively, like without Root available and without Wood available, the stuff is good, but there are some guys that LSU should be able to barrel up against this Arkansas team the way that they swung it against UCLA. And that's kind of been my point with this LSU team. Like, yeah, they've had some times where they haven't been great on offense. They've had some games, they've had some 6-inning stretches where they haven't been great. And more often than not, it's against elite pitching. And I get it if Gade Wood is out there and you just can't deal with it. I understand that Gabe Gackle's brutal and that you saw him on Saturday, and that's a really tough guy to deal with. But there are some guys that LSU should see in this game that are talented, and I told you that in the first segment, but I don't get the sense that I think LSU's going to be overwhelmed at the Dish tonight, and I think LSU is playing well. So this is something that I've told you prior to just about every NCAA tournament game that I've gone on the air previous to. And what that is that Jay Johnson very, very, very much prioritizes playing from ahead. And Daniel Dickinson got that bunt call from the dugout in the second inning against Arkansas on Saturday. It was not a green light, do whatever you want. Like a lot of times he's just showing bunt to drag the defense in, and if he gets a really good one to bunt, he's going to put it down, and that's a Daniel Dickinson call. This was not. This was called from the dugout. He was to lay a bunt down, and he dropped down a perfect one, and he was able to beat it out for a single. But that shows you that Jay Johnson's going to play some of those games early in this game to try to get a lead. You have the psychological advantage in this game because your season is not on the line. So if you can immediately get out in front and put Arkansas up against the wall where they know that they either have to figure this out or their season is over, that may change their mentality, may make them press a little bit, may try to throw pitches that are too fine and walk guys, may try to do too much at the plate and chase pitches. You want to put that kind of pressure on Arkansas. And so if you can get an early run, Jay Johnson prioritizes that. Whether I do or you do, that doesn't matter. I'm just telling you what the head coach of the team thinks. The head coach of the team that's calling the shots is going to want to put a 1 or 2 spot on that board early and try to make Arkansas press a little bit. So I would look for that. But in all honesty, 1 or 2 is not going to do it tonight. I think as I look at the pitching lineups and I look at the lineups that these two teams will put together offensively, and I look at the way the ballpark has started to play a little bit where the wind is blowing more favorably. I wouldn't say out, but not just howling in like it has been. I think there are going to be some big swings tonight. I think there are going to be a couple of home runs hit, maybe 3 or 4 home runs hit, and I think that could go a huge way. And I'd like to have more guys than not able to get up there and let it fly as opposed to trying to play for 1 run in the second inning. But I'm just telling you what the coach thinks, and the coach thinks that it's a good idea to get ahead early, so I think you can expect to see some of that early on in the ball game. I've been asked today probably 15 times who's pitching for LSU, and I think everyone who asked me knows the answer that I don't know, but they're just dying for the information. So I will get out in front of that. Like, I don't know who LSU is going to start. I would guess it's Newt or Cowan. I had a friend text me that he feels like Jacob Myers could be a good option if you want to get off to a good start and maybe get a couple strikeouts. I've heard people say that if Anthony Hines is going to pitch, you might as well start him and throw him 3 innings. Like, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I just know that I'm not going to know the pitcher until the lineups are handed out in the press box, because that's the way Jay Johnson is going to roll, and I feel like Dave Van Horn is going to follow suit with that. Now, if over the course of the next hour, both Arkansas and LSU fire off a tweet that's got their starting pitcher on it because Dave Van Horn and Jay Johnson have exchanged that information, and sometimes that is as simple as it is. They text each other. So if they do that, then I'll let you know, and we'll break that down. But I feel like, as I said here right now, that I'm not getting that information. So we'll break down as much as we can in the second hour. Very much looking forward to it. If you missed any of the first hour, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. Appreciate that, getting our content in front of as many people as possible. Really a big shout-out to Our Lady of the Lake, to Yingling Beer, and to GoFlow IV Spa for making our coverage possible. We'll step aside for Sports Center. Come back with Andrew Hutchinson of Best of Arkansas Sports.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Shout out to our guy, Jonathan Carbo, does a phenomenal job over at the Highland Insurance Group. Look, it's hurricane season right now, and once storms get into that Gulf, you don't have the option of changing your insurance program. The time to do that is now. You don't want to have a hurricane blow through. It'd be substantial. You have a property loss. You don't have the proper business interruption insurance. You're losing revenue. You've got co-insurance penalties. You don't get the proper payment out on a claim. Like, all these things are avoidable, but you've got to be proactive about it. So contact the Highland Insurance Group. Contact Jonathan Carbo. Have them audit your policy and make sure that your property policy is written correctly. If it's not, they will do it for you before that storm hits us. In our part of the world, it's just an inevitability. Make sure that your property insurance is correct with our friends at the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at highlandig.com. Wherever you are in the state of Louisiana, they're based in Baton Rouge and can certainly help you out with it. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Invite you to find them online at highlandig.com. That is highlandig.com.